I am ready to declare that it is going to end and MAGA will die with Donald Trump's presidency ending January 20th of 2029 or sooner if it happens to end sooner for any reason. Now, I am not making this prediction because the anger of MAGA is going to disappear. I am not making this prediction because Republicans are suddenly going to reform themselves when Trump is finally gone. I'm saying this because MAGA as a movement, I don't believe can exist without the one person that it is built around. And it is becoming increasingly clear, including as we hear from Trump supporters, that they don't really want J.D. Vance to be the nominee in 2028. I don't think that they are going to be able to pull it off. Now, let me give you some of the context. And a lot of the stuff, we've kind of been talking about this for a decade. MAGA is not really an ideology. MAGA isn't conservatism. It contains elements of nationalism, but fundamentally, it isn't nationalism. A lot of the stuff that Trump does is actually much better for other countries than the United States. It uses populist rhetoric, but it's not really populism in any coherent sense. As soon as Trump got into power, all of the lip service paid to the populist rhetoric went out the window or down the toilet, and Trump did what was best for big corporations and his rich friends and dictators in other countries. And there's no really stable set of beliefs that would survive disagreement if MAGA really starts arguing about it. There's really only one rule to MAGA: loyalty to Donald Trump. Whatever Trump says today becomes the position of MAGA. And if he says something different tomorrow, then it's a different thing that MAGA believes. Tariffs are good until they're bad. Vaccines are great when Trump wants credit for developing them, but then all of a sudden they are woke poison that RFK Jr. is going to say, definitely don't give to your kids. An institution is corrupt until it starts serving Trump, and then it's great. Think FBI, Federal Reserve, whatever. That is not a political philosophy. That is personal allegiance to Donald Trump. Personal allegiance to Trump can't survive Trump by definition. Every attempt to start orienting the ship towards a successor so far is proving the point. You have people that try to copy the style or the insults or the grievances of Trump. And it really doesn't catch on because Trump voters don't want someone to sound like Trump. They want Trump. They don't follow Trump because he reflects their views. They adopt Trump's views because he dominates the space and they do whatever he says. And that is a kind of, I guess you could call it like authority that you can't inherit from Trump. Trump can't transfer that loyalty and authority. I believe it disappears when Trump disappears. Now, MAGA also requires something else that Trump uniquely provides: a place to dump failure. When Trump loses, it's never really a loss. It is, oh, it was rigged. I was betrayed. There's a conspiracy. Trump will absorb a defeat and turn it into a persecution where he's almost a martyr. And without him, there's not going to be a central figure to do that work. I don't believe the anger of MAGA will unify and martyr someone else the way Trump has been able to turn himself into a martyr. I think it'll turn inward. MAGA will turn it against itself. And what you're going to see is unified loyalty to Trump will fragment into infighting within MAGA. There will be purity tests. Wait a second. Are you really part of the movement if you believe X versus Y? It used to be simple. You're with Trump. That's cool. That's all it is. But they're going to try to make a grievance movement, which is what MAGA really is, that no longer has its messiah. And I think that it is going to fracture. Now, then we get to the part that Republicans don't really like to say out loud. MAGA is bad for business once Trump is gone. Political parties exist to win power. MAGA regularly loses suburban voters. It repels younger voters. It terrifies donors who want predictability. And as long as Trump exists, Republicans tolerate it because he controls the base. He's in charge. He's either the former president, the wannabe president, or president again. And when Trump is gone, that calculation is going to change. I don't believe the MAGA brand will be an asset after Trump is gone. It'll be a really lame liability. And people will start to realize how cringe and terrible it always was. And I think Republicans are going to move on. Now, remember, a lot of Republicans haven't moved on only because they don't want Trump's ire turned against them. That's all it's going to be. Now, there are obvious objections to some of this. One example is Trump didn't create MAGA out of nothing. There was already resentment. There was xenophobia, scapegoating of immigrants, and all this different stuff. Trump coalesced it. The backlash was there. The distrust of institutions was there. Trump lit a match. That's all he did. He didn't spread the fuel around. He just lit a match. And I think that that's where a lot of people get this wrong. It's been over 10 years. MAGA today in 2026 is not the same thing as the forces that created MAGA back in 2015. MAGA is a brand based around a cult of personality. It requires Trump's voice, shamelessness, and Trump's ability to make contradictions and double standards completely irrelevant. Without Trump, it doesn't continue as what it's been for the last 11 years. Something will probably survive, but it's not going to be MAGA Trumpism. Now, I also am not saying that after Trump, Republicans become normal and it's like a party that's just John McCain's and Mitt Romney's. I don't think that they're going to become principled or anything like that. They will probably become quieter and more disciplined and sort of less openly ridiculous and probably more institutionally dangerous as well. Fewer red hats, fewer unhinged, swollen, soaking wet rallies, but probably more policy, better use of the courts, and more bureaucracy. The resentments will be there, but they're going to repackage it into language that sounds a little less unhinged and a little more respectable. MAGA will die because it can't exist without Trump at the center of it. But the conditions that produced MAGA aren't going to go away. And I believe 11 years on, it will then be 14 years on. They will mutate, adapt, and they're going to move on. That is where we get to Democrats. Democrats cannot afford to make the mistake of confusing the end of MAGA with the end of the problem. In fact, and I hate that this is the likely reality, Democrats might have a tougher time if and when Republicans start acting a little less wacky and start being a little more careful about how to get things done. So we can celebrate the impending collapse of the brand, but we shouldn't ignore the forces that are underneath it, because in a sense, ignoring the dangers of these movements was how we got into this mess in the first place. So I believe MAGA dies with Trump. What comes next won't be an empty space. It won't be Mitt Romney and John McCain type Republicans taking over the party. It'll be colder and quieter and more calculated. And we are going to have to be better prepared to fight them because they will spend less time with ridiculous rallies during which Trump glitches and twitches and glitches and short circuits. And they're going to spend more time actually getting shit done. Disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. Send me an email, info@davidpakman.com. I'd love to hear from you. Most scammers rely on information that's already public. Your name, address, phone number, family connections, a lot of that is online and available to be scraped and abused. Our sponsor, Incogni, reduces the risk by removing you from the internet wherever that personal data appears. It works across many types of websites, not just one category. So scammers have fewer ways to piece things together about you. Incogni automatically submits removal requests to hundreds of sites on your behalf. But the standout feature is custom removals, where you find your information on any website, even one not in their database. You paste the link and Incogni's team will get to work to remove it. I can tell you, I've personally been getting way fewer scam and spam calls and messages ever since I started using Incogni. You can accomplish a lot quickly with Incogni. Protect yourself before your data is used against you. Get 60% off when you go to incogni.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is in the description.